Today, we are breaking down over 15 day 3 sleepers in the 2025 NFL class. These are names that you should know, and they're backed up with an entire scouting report and also a game from my scouting report that you guys are going to be able to see. This is going to be in order from offense to defense. So if you guys do like content like this, all of my positional rankings are exactly the same way. I'm just combining all this together because we had an amazing subscriber who ended up actually requesting this one as part of one of his super chats. So I got to give some shout outs to my beloved fans out there. Starting with AlexCBarbour, we're going to go with the quarterback position first. This is not in order of the biggest sleeper to the other, like to the lowest end sleeper. This is going to be position by position by position, offense to defense, kind of just the way that, start thinking about positions here. But with AlexCBarbour, I'm going to also be requoting my game from Penn State for him. He's a player who has the highest ceiling in the class at the quarterback position based on where he is being drafted. Basically, I believe he's going to be the highest potential chance to be a steal if he goes to the right situation. But let's talk about his game from Penn State. I write these notes to myself, and you guys have really enjoyed being able to essentially watch the game with me. These are live notes. I'm sitting down watching the game. This is what I'm typing as I'm watching it. It's progressive. Sometimes it's counterintuitive, but these are the notes that I write to myself per game. So AlexCBarbour versus Penn State. Started off by not being a fan of his mechanics. His mechanics are absolute garbo. I'm just going to be completely honest. It's not good. It's not good. And we're going to see that being a main issue in this. Not a fan of his mechanics off the bat, leading to slightly behind skinny post pass. So, again, his receivers running a skinny post. It's pretty straightforward. But because his mechanics are off, maybe the timing is going to be a little bit suboptimal. Maybe the ball comes out at a different angle than what you normally throw it at. Mechanics are key for consistency more than anything, and for precision. And so when you have issues with that, that's why you have a C in placement. So it ends up describing it, all the grades while just talking about how he plays. Decision making has been solid. The placement has been wonky due to his garbage mechanics. The ball definitely has some zip, but the mechanics are yeesh. Crazy thread between 3 defenders. Ended up having an interception due to poor placement. If he led the receiver better, it could have been a big time throw. However, it was an interception instead. The wide receiver was running behind a linebacker, and he just threw the ball behind the receiver into the hands of the linebacker. And it was the right decision. It just was not executed the way that it should have been. Continuing on, his best throws are low-key back foot and falling away. I'm going to be honest, even when I throw the football, I also have a tendency to arguably be more accurate when I'm almost falling away. And maybe it's because you end up having the ball sit in your hand better, or you end up generating more power from that back leg. But with Brosmer, it was a lot of these like NFL out routes that he would be basically drifting away while throwing, and they'd be perfect, like on the money. So it's very intriguing, and he does have a lot of skill with being able to deal with stuff like that. But continuing on, he had another beautiful layer pass. His best throws, there we go. He did a jump pass to layer and ended up overshooting his player. Big issue with his poor mechanics. So, his pocket presence has been solid so far. With that jump pass, basically, when you're trying to layer it, there might be a linebacker here and a safety behind, and your wide receiver. That looks so wrong. I'm so sorry. Safety here, linebacker here, or other way around, and then you're having a receiver go in between the two. God, that's gonna be an all-time clip. And then you're trying to get over the linebacker underneath the safety. That's what a layer is. But ended up overshooting the player because, again, when you do a jump pass, it's very hard to get the mechanics consistently. Not every single person's Patrick Mahomes, but he ended up fumbling with no one touching him. It's kind of an issue with a lot of these quarterbacks in the class. Their ball control is pretty bad with it in their hands. Again, pause. Awful hospital ball that ended up being caught by Dane Jackson, I believe. So shout out to Dane Jackson there. Dude, the high level throws are just insane. He does throw with anticipation. His wide receiver ended up giving up early on a route in the red zone to end off the game. And I said he has the highest ceiling of the day 3 quarterbacks without a doubt. Great player, but a lot to work on. The mechanics are ass, hence why the negative it factor. So definitely some concerns there, but not really a big issue. The special thing about this episode is that it gives me time to talk about some players that I have yet to be able to give a scouting report on. You're going to look at my running back video and you're like, Kalmanon guy wasn't on there. where he's at. So it's going to be a couple of these players in this. So you guys are getting first peek at a lot of these great players that I've been studying that have not been on the initial list. I'm debating whether I want to do final rankings, but we'll see about that when all is said and done. Let's talk about his game versus Nebraska. Kyle Monangai. I love this guy to death. As you can see, my grade is very, very high. I think he might be RB4 for me. I'm trying to remember the exact grade, but there's a cluster of dudes, and I believe that Kyle Monangai is right. Like, there's been some shifts, so I'm not going to spoil my running back video that could be coming up, but I digress. Starting out with his game versus Nebraska. Nice missed tackle forced in the backfield, getting to the edge while slipping an arm tackle for a first down. Really good contact balance. Would like for him to be a little more assertive off the bat. Randomly reversed the field when a hole opened up in front of him, but ended up still getting a big gain. Really nice pace to allow blocks to develop and find the open hole for a big gain. He does a nice job finding the best lane. Yeah, he has the it factor. Missed the blitzer when he was blocking, not seeing too much in pass pro. Chose the wrong hole, makes dudes miss consistently in the open field. It seems like it will translate. 'Cause sometimes when you make guys miss in the open field, it doesn't end up really translating at that same rate. And like guys like Ollie Gordon, that's why I've been notoriously low on him since the beginning of my studying with him. I just didn't feel like it was translatable. I hate when I'm right about it, but I was right in that instance. Hopefully I'm right about this one in the exact opposite sense. Ended up choosing the wrong hole when running. Makes dudes miss consistently in the open field. Oh, I ended up saying that already. Honestly, does a solid job operating in soft spots as a release receiver. So he slows down in like soft spots and stuff. I actually quite like that. Not really much of a route running type of guy, but in terms of being just like adequate, which is what the C grade is, it makes sense. But flash of nice pass protection, so at least it wasn't all bad. In wide zone, I feel like he wants to hit the edge too much, especially for his lack of athleticism. I believe he was in the 4.6 range. Not going to be one of your guys that you're going to hit your wagon to, so to speak, in that aspect. But I digress. I feel like he wants to hit the edge too much. He brought in another player when he backed into the end zone. Brought in another back. Oh, so Rutgers ended up bringing in another running back when they ended up being backed into their end zone and ended up throwing it. So I said my theory was when you ended up subbing in or subbing out Kyle Monangai, when they're backed up into pretty much into where they can end up having a safety, they didn't believe in him as a blocker at that same rate. But he ended up coming in 7 plays later. Ended up actually having a catch in traffic as well. Not a great pass blocker overall, but overall I am extremely impressed. Like, he's just a really good back. He bounces off tackles. He's able to make guys miss in open field. Like, this is somebody who I think on a consistent basis is going to be a very reliable running back too. And that's what the 75 to 80 is, like an RB2 with the upside of an RB1. Kyle's not really one of those guys who has that upside, but for guys who are 80 plus, those are the guys who I can almost guarantee will be an RB1 in a system. Nate Carter's next, and this guy surprised me better, like more than anything. And I was like, holy shit, this guy didn't even get a combine invite. Nate Carter, Michigan State. He's a little bit on the lighter side, but also ended up not really producing too much. I got to give a shout out to my own work. Shout out to Football Analysis, the YouTube channel, but Garrett ended up starting his own website, and my only article that I've dropped so far, because it started last week, was a Nate Carter breakdown. I'll be releasing it as well on Twitter, not the actual breakdown, but the link, so you guys can end up having an easier way to get there. But regardless, I ended up breaking down the good, the bad, and the ugly with Nate Carter. It's just under 700 words, so you guys can end up reading it probably in 5 minutes if you want to, but it gives you everything that you're looking for if you do want to see a holistic view. However, this is going to be talking about his game versus Michigan that he got very famous for. It was his only game over 100 yards this year, but it was also one of the few games where he got more than 10 touches. So let's talk about it. This was also his most translatable game too, and he performed the best versus the best teams, which is another big plus. Definitely has some juice even in the receiving game. Flash of good vision and explosiveness. Good job with overhead catch on a screen, using some extra vision as well after the catch. Explosiveness is his best trait overall so far. Big home run hit with nice vision and balance with poor tackles. Has yet to show balance versus NFL tackles in this game. Has yet to do anything really as a blocker. Did not end up being that way. He never, unfortunately, turned the corner on that, so to speak. Touchdown run was not great. He does not really have power on the goal line. I think that's another reason why I ended up dropping him, another it factor point, because I just don't trust him on the goal line. You will have to have a goal line back. I digress, though. Vision is top tier. This kid is very, very good. Doing a nice job of breaking tackles, still weaker tackles, but they are NFL possible, like a weak NFL tackle. Great fake reverse with a stiff arm. So he ended up actually selling the reverse very well, ended up then stiff arming the next defender in his way. Flashed a good pickup of a blitzer. Unfortunately, that was like the only good blocking that he did that game. Flashing some good route running as well. Great job staying up after he got hit on a reception. I ended up posting that on X. You can feel free to check out that all 22 clip. And breaking a tackle for a big gain. Poor stutter on an out route. Overall, I am stunned. This is one of the best players I've ever seen that hasn't gotten a combine invite. I mean, to me, he's just... like, people love RJ Harvey, and it's like, I want them to watch Nate Carter because I feel like he's like RJ Harvey, but like almost better in every aspect. Because RJ Harvey sucks at blocking too. That's why he's going to be a little bit lower on my rankings than, what I really want. But I didn't like the blocking from RJ Harvey as much as I really wanted to. And that really does put like Nate Carter in a different tier because even though he's a D plus in blocking, it's a lot better than an F. But I digress. Nate Carter, I mean, you see where his grade's at. I mean, outside of positional value, that's like a top 60 grade. But I think with positional value, he is somewhere around like that 80 to 90 range. Let's talk about Jordan James. His grade dropped a little bit, so I'm going to talk about my new game that I ended up adding on top of the list because I felt like I needed to watch something on top of what I already have to like just double check and look at how he tested versus how this ended up working out. And I mean, his long speed actually might be a B- right now. I might have mistaken that one because I just adjusted it earlier today. But he ended up not testing out too well overall against someone who's going to be in that 4.6 territory. However, Jordan James on the field is extremely explosive and extremely athletic for, especially how he tested. So I personally am not going to put too much of a fault there. But his actual official grade is a 73.25. So that is up to date. But Jordan James versus Penn State. The dude's just going hard at the whole full sprint off the bat, but he needs to because the defense is getting, pressure right away. He needed to break a tackle in open space and did not. Makes a few redirection decisions that are not optimal. Definitely not a good lead blocker. Drop an open pass. Why is this O-line ass at run blocking? Those are my takeaways that game. And if you guys want to see a longer one, you can end up going back and checking out my running back video on him. But I mean, Jordan James, he's reliable. Overall, he has some solid traits. I even miscolored the C+. I just ended up realizing that. But you guys know how I roll here. Jordan James is a good back, but I mean, really, like he's like right now at like the 110 to 120 spot. He's somebody who'll probably be going in terms of like where he'll be drafted like later day 3. But he was a reliable weapon there for Oregon, and I think that he was almost at fault of the offensive line not performing as well, which is quite nuts given how good their O-line is. But let's talk about LeQuint Allen next. This guy's awesome. I'm a big fan of LeQuint Allen, and this guy's fun. Also did not test out too well, but I did see him get caught from behind quite a few times. Like, he really does look on the field quite limited in terms of his overall like top speed. But let's talk about his game versus NC State. He has twitch, but not much juice, which in other terms, like he doesn't have that long range speed. Off the bat, I ended up seeing that. He had a flash of blocking, which ended up getting a lot better if you can't tell. Seems like he makes solid decisions when it is either two decisions where he's like, okay, do I go through this hole or this hole? He makes the right decision, but when he has more than that to choose from, he seems to be a bit more confused, which is a little bit concerning, which is why the vision at B- is still good. But I do think that next level of vision is maybe even more important. Another solid blocking rep, but needs to use his arms, not his shoulder. Ended up posting quite a few LeQuint Allen blocking reps on X as well. Feel free to go follow me over there. But getting back to it, another good block, has yet to really break a single tackle. Shows up as some playmaking as a receiver. I saw him developing his route and kind of adjusting for how the defense was, sitting in certain soft spots in the zones. I really liked seeing that. Great block, good job running over a guy as well. Flashing a lot as a receiver. Nice juke in open space, flashing some good contact balance. Top end speed is by far his worst trait. Great goal line reps showing the leg drive and balance. Arguably the best receiving back that I studied this year. Flashing good patience, insane block. Kind of chose the wrong dude, but still annihilated him. I posted that one as well. I said that he sent the defender into the gulag. It was insane. He decked a blitzer, which is awesome to see. Not going to lie, his O-line lets him down 50% of the time. Yeah, LeQuint Allen's going to be a great back. He's another one of those guys that I have sitting there just outside of my top 100. Let's go into this. Let's talk about Jimmy Horn Jr. going to the wide receiver position. This is not just a running back video, but Jimmy Horn Jr. is somebody who I love to death. And honestly, I didn't feel like I needed to adjust him or LaJohntay Wester, spoiler alert, anything in regards to I feel like I got their athleticism down pretty pat. So let's talk about Jimmy Horn Jr. versus Baylor. And I believe Jimmy Horn just ran a 4.40 today, which means his grade is going to stay identical, even though I was going to be a little bit more of an arrogant ass and keep it that way with the 4.47. One of his few games with 30 plus reps. So Baylor is also a very good defense. I love to study players versus Baylor. You see the best and the worst out of players when you get to see them play Baylor. Very fluid and explosive off the bat. Clean outs when he flips his hips and maintains momentum. He evades press very well. Screen catch outside his body and then shed and drug defenders for yards. Ended up getting a pancake block as well. Gorgeous stop route. He's a playmaker as well. He went from a crosser to a deep fade to help almost score a touchdown if Shedeur Sanders ended up putting more on it, ended up actually underthrowing him. Nasty rocker step. So that's a release package move right there. A feisty blocker as well. He slows down in zone with the soft spots when running crossers, constantly evolving the route to get open. Inside release, or inside to outside release. So he ended up faking it inside, ended up going outside on his release. A ton of would-be touchdowns, just not targeted. Clean double move. I am wowed. And honestly, I am so grateful that his contested catch grade is not super high, because I'm just going to be honest, this dude, if he ended up being a little bit better in that aspect, or ended up not dropping the ball as much, this guy could be contending for wide receiver one. I love Jimmy Horn, and he reminded me so much of Antonio Brown that, I personally was yeah. I mean, I see it with him. Big fan of his game. LaJohntay Wester is next. If these figures are off, please feel free to call it out. I don't believe they are. I ended up going and adjusting, at least on my board. If I accidentally copied and pasted their height and weight slightly off, call me out on it. I love you guys for that anyway. But LaJohntay Wester is next. I got to give a shout out to my Colorado boys here. Got to give a ton of love to these guys because they don't get enough love. And by the way, these are only for players who I think would be selected on day 3 that I think deserve the shout. But solid after the catch. This is a game versus Kansas. Not as explosive as I thought. Ended up actually looking a lot better at the Shrine Bowl, hence why I have that adjustment right there. He's a willing blocker. Nice shoulder dip versus downfield press. So basically the defender tries to jam him up here. You drop the shoulder. It's similar to when you slip a punch, right? It's very similar to that, but in football terms. He had an okay 45-degree cut, which I do think is probably his worst ability. Would want him to be a little bit more explosive off the line. He ended up proving that he's mightily explosive. When I saw him in person at the Shrine Bowl, I thought it was that way. On the tape, it just might have been the offense that wasn't allowing it, because I saw it with my own 2 eyes, and then we saw the testing as well. Has the Travis bent in route. So he really does kind of feel like, funnily enough, I didn't put the comparison on there, but I ended up saying that he's an on-sale version of Travis Hunter. But great after the catch. Does a solid job staying alive and trying to create that playmaking ability. Low-key feels, there we go, like an on-sale Travis Hunter. I do think this guy is awesome. You're going to probably be able to pick him up, potentially even deeper into day 3. But I personally hope and pray that these guys do not go to the AFC North except the Steelers, just because I'm scared shitless of what they can do if they do that. I think these guys are awesome. So shout out to LaJohntay Wester and Jimmy Horn Jr. We're going to talk about one more receiver here in Ja'Cory Brooks. Ja'Cory Brooks is another receiver that I don't think gets remotely enough love. I think this guy's a very, very good player. So let's talk about his game versus Notre Dame. Again, some of these are going to be repeats of my actual rankings series, which I think it's fair. If I think this game represents them the best, should probably tell you guys about it, but I digress. This was a game versus a legit number 1 corner in Ben Morrison. Twitchy and good hand releases. Good job with positioning on the deep ball, but did not bring it in. But there was also a PI by Ben Morrison when he was holding the other arm. So it just didn't end up bringing in a one-hand catch. Feels like an it factor guy. Adjusted his route to get a touchdown. He literally alters his route for optimal separation for the play. I end up loving it. It almost feels slightly Brian Thomas-y. He's not on that level, but I'm saying like maybe if you could end up putting a comparison, it's like a clearance version of Brian Thomas. But back to it. Juggle the ball into an interception on an open target. That's a big no-no. Much better on his hard stops than he was the year before. I swear this quarterback is holding him back. Tyler Shuck. Not a bad blocker. Pretty stiff comeback, but he ended up stumbling. Called for the ball even when covered like a savage. Then he goes and gets a touchdown on a fade. Very impressed overall. I do think Ja'Cory Brooks is extremely underrated. I mean, I don't understand why people genuinely don't like him. He's, if I'm not mistaken, a former 5-star Bama recruit and ended up going to Louisville and, showing a lot of very, very good traits. The drop rate is a big issue, but I think overall Ja'Cory Brooks is somebody who I would really want on my roster. Luke Kandra is next. Big fan of Luke Kandra. I have yet to drop a guard video, so you guys are hearing it here first. So let's talk about his game versus Iowa State. Good mobility off the bat. Not great length usage, and his arms are not super powerful. They seem to collapse into his body easily. So you think about it, you're holding your arms out here. Like for him, when he engages, it almost like you lose all the length that you have, but when you end up, not being able to keep the engagement at distance. So it kind of defeats the purpose, right? Solid anchor overall. Excellent turns in outside zones. So basically running backs running behind you and you end up walling off. Like he does a very good job at that. Pass pro seems very legit. Swatted the hands down of the defender. Needs to watch out for leaning too much when the ball is a bit away from him. So let's just say the ball is going on the backside. He ends up like lunging almost. And it's like really like it's almost counterintuitive. You should be a little bit more conservative when your goal is just don't let somebody catch from behind, and he ends up actually doing almost the opposite. But continuing on, not a fast athlete, more so quick. He's elite at walling off holes even in zone plays. Lost awareness of the quarterback as the pocket developed and gave up an easy lane, but it's honestly nothing crazy. I didn't really think it's translatable. Helps others well and with no lag. So there's some players that like have to process that there's nothing going on before they help out a fellow offensive lineman. Well, Luke ended up processing it very quickly and ended up making a very good play off the bat. So big fan of Luke Kandra doing that. The lower footwork could improve when he's not engaged. He can end up dancing around and getting tall when he's not engaged in a block. He ended up being caught lunging. In rundowns for gap and power runs, he should get a little bit wider in the base. He does actually keep his feet together a little bit too much. He handled the stunt like a pro. Passed off the defensive interior too quickly, leading to a tackle for loss on a screen pass. Grabbed the arm of defender in pass pro. So that was a good thing. Defender came at him. He ended up grabbing his arm and holding him up and stuff. I think that's awesome to see. It's pretty much a self-defense technique. Wish he had a bit more power in his arms. He could end up being a high-end starter in block scheme. So maybe get this guy into the weight room. But overall, this guy, super underrated. I'm a big fan of his game. Hollin Pierce is next. I mean, we all kind of know about this guy, 6'8", 340 pounds. And you look at pictures of him, if I'm not mistaken, just like a year or two ago, the dude was legitimately clinically obese. And he has done, like, I saw him in person. This dude has had such an amazing body recomp. Like, it is admirable. Hollin Pierce is stunned. Like, his transformation has been stunning. Let's talk about his game versus Nebraska. It was his second lowest graded game as well. His feet are kind of a mess, but he has pop in the hands. Really solid mobility in the run game. Climbing to the second level seems to be an IQ challenge for finding who to block. He needs to be more reserved in space. He can get ahead of himself and over pursue either the linebacker or the defensive back. Lateral mobility in his kick slide seems to be a little bit limited. He's 6'8", 340. No shit. Would like for him to use a little bit more of his length when initiating contact, especially given how long his arms are. He can get bent because of his foot speed being a little bit iffy, and his form is not there enough to be efficient. So basically defenders can get his outside shoulder because his footwork is a little bit off, and overall he's just not very efficient with his movement. Which is why he's going to be very developmental. But his anchor does not seem to be bad. It just doesn't seem to be great. His hands can slide off. He seems to have a mauler mentality without the reservation to maintain the block. So basically his hands just like slide off. Like there's a level that I've debated putting into my grading system, which is control. And like it's basically the consistency of your hands being on the player. But I also think that's something I could just talk about and just reduce their overall grade as a pass or run blocker based on that. Would like for him to sit a lot lower. Again, his lower mechanics are crap. He has some flashes of anchor. I think it's a mechanics thing more than an ability thing. So he had a flash of some better footwork, at least in one of his drop sets. Or like I honestly think that he does have the potential there. It's just I don't think Rutgers does a good job developing them at that rate. He can over leverage and end up leaning into the players, which makes zero sense with his near 36-inch arms. Not choosing the shoulder side of the defender that would be best to benefit a play a lot to learn. Oh, he has a lot to learn. So let's just say you're blocking a defender and the run's coming up your left side. It would almost be like he would attack the right shoulder. I'm like, buddy, the ball's going through there, bud. Like, be aware of where the play is. Like, you guys get what I'm talking about with that. I digress, though. Getting back to it. Newsflash, when he uses his length in pass pro, he does better. Has shown much better anchoring ability as the game progressed. The potential is insane. Once he was in his groove, I could see a legit starting NFL tackle in the making. Emphasis in the words in the making. But let's get on with this. Aeneas Peebles is next. I love this kid. I mean, he's awesome. He didn't test out as well as you were kind of hoping for, but this guy does have ridiculous potential. Let's talk about his game versus the U. Great push off the bat. There was an edge rep and ended up getting push on Maui Goa. He ended up flashing his spin move. Does a good job with spin moves too. Solid pad level for his size. Continues fighting with extra moves. Does a good job of using angles to collapse the pocket. He ended up being stiff-armed out of a sack. He looks tired, so there's legit endurance questions overall. Much more explosive than athletic. He likes to use the spin move, which, funnily enough, if you look at the 40 time and everything, it's not that he did badly. It's just, for a player that's as athletic as he is and as small as he is, there are some concerns there. It does look a lot more explosive than fast. Or then like speedy, I should say. Active hands and arms. He ended up getting a quick spin sack. He jumped, but did not get flagged, and then did a nice gap. Oh, he ended up jumping the snap. He did not get flagged for it, and then after that, did a nice gap jump and ended up getting a pressure for it. So he ended up mistiming the snap. Ended up then jumping between, a guard and a center. Ended up getting a nice pressure there. You can get taken out easily by double teams. I mean, when you're 6 foot, 282, that just happens. Overall, had some really solid flashes, but will be a little bit more role specific. Bottom line, Aeneas Peebles is a super high ceiling player that, you just need to have a little bit more beef on the offensive line. Maybe have a good run defending linebacker in case there's a double team on Peebles, which, I mean, I don't know in what situation you'd have a double team on Peebles, but maybe he is just that damn good. But it does remind me a lot of Kalijah Cansey in the way that he jumped gaps and was very solid all around as a talent. I was not going to include Oluwafemi Oladejo on this. That's how you say it, apparently. I ended up, UCLA ended up having like a little video of him saying it. But Oladejo, because I call him Oladejo, it's Oladejo. Like, I've been hearing about him like legitimately being in the 4th round, so I'm like, this is easy to talk about, and I haven't talked about him in my Edge video, so like perfect timing, right? So you guys get to see this for the first time as well. Talk about his game versus USC. Transition to Edge this year. This is the latest game that was available for UCLA from what I have. First play, he ended up pushing the offensive lineman, and he ended up looking past the offensive lineman, made a tackle for loss. His run defense, is just so damn good. Not much impact in pass rush so far. He needs to learn how to combine his moves. I think he did a very good job with that at the Senior Bowl. I'm going to go through the Senior Bowl one more time and kind of finish off with some of these guys I've been grading recently and update their holistic grades. But this is based off of tape this year. Getting back to it, needs to learn to disengage much cleaner than he does. He shoved a running back over mid-pursuit of the quarterback. I always love seeing when you can just end up like, when you like fuck with the mentality of offensive players to where they actually have to fear you even if you don't have the ball in your hands. I love seeing that. And it's not like a dirty thing. Like I don't like when players, if he ended up just stopping to engage the quarterback and ended up just plowing, like pretty much George Pickensing a player, I'd have some issues with it. But, if there's a running back that's just like trying to touch you and then you just like absolutely yeet him, I'm all game, brother. I'm all game. Nice quick win with the hand chop. Needs to make the pursuit angle a little bit more smooth. He had a lag step after because I don't think he processed that he got a quick win. Does a good job when it comes to hand fighting because he creates his own leverage by taking the shoulder angles. You can definitely tell he's still learning to play the edge. The run defense is absolutely there because of the linebacker background. He ended up having a slow-ass spin move. And I think he did better in mobile as well. You can still see that he's learning and has power, but he's just he has not fully learned how to fully apply it. Pretty heavy feet overall, has some nice reps showing his athleticism. It is obvious, but again, he is clearly still learning. Needs to tuck the shoulder and bend a little bit more, and he will turn some of these pressures into sacks. Has a tendency to not keep his legs driving. They move, but not in a power-generating way. When told to go get it, he pushes tackles back. So when you don't have a read step, he ends up doing well. This is not a read step thing. It's definitely part of him that is still feeling out how to be a true edge. There we go. Shout out to James Foster, by the way. He ended up doing an excellent job messaging me behind the scenes and saying, hey, some of the times the reason why guys don't just go and get it is because the defense literally asks them to not just straight out go and get it. So shout out to him for doing that. I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good grip on football for the most part, but there's still nuances to the game that, I'm still learning. I mean, I think everybody's still learning. Even the best of the best still have things that they're still learning. So shout out to those. I'm grateful to have guys like James in my life that are able to be honest with me like that. So all love to you guys for doing that as well. Needs to leverage a lot better. He can get extremely tall. Again, kind of like playing linebacker while he's at edge. He's really shy as a run defender, which is great. Overall, I think this guy is going to be a super stud. And again, this is not a final grade because I think that a lot of it is going to weigh on how he performed in Mobile. And I'm still going through and regrading guys based on that, not solely on the 2024 tape and before. Danny Stutzman's next. Again, another player that I have yet. This is why I'm doing this series, by the way. It's an excuse for me to kind of give you guys an update without you guys having to wait for a whole position video for it. But you see where Danny Stutzman is. I love Danny Stutzman as a player. Love him. And the thing is, his game has evolved so much over the past year. It's insane. So let's get into this. Let's talk about it, about his game versus Alabama. Off the bat, he shows patience. Okay. So, what the fuck am I typing there? So he ended up showing patience, and then he ended up stuffing Milroe. Oh, to stuff Milroe. I did TOS tough. Ended up doing a misspace there. So off the bat, he shows patience to stuff Jalen Milroe. Would like for him to be a little bit lower. Not really, he's not very athletic, but he's doing a good job being safe on an option read. He ends up building up speed in a straight line, which is why he ended up actually testing out so well. Hard time changing directions and accelerating out of a cut. Does a good job sub-processing a block evasion. Basically, his eyes are on the ball, and he's still getting past blocks when he's not really focused on getting past the block. He has yet to be fooled by a quarterback option. He ended up biting. After that, he ended up biting. But he was the read, so he was not going to choose the right. Oh, so this is what I mean. See, I'm reading my own shit and then telling you guys what I'm processing here as well. He ended up biting on a particular quarterback read. So let's just say he ended up going after the running back and the quarterback ended up pulling it. The thing is, the guy that the quarterback was reading was him. So you can't choose really. It's very rare that you could choose correctly in that situation, especially if the guy who's the optioneer is Jalen Milroe. So I'll give him some credit there. It's kind of hard to not bite when you are the read. Consistently has filled holes the carrier wants to go into and forces them to go an alternate path. Big games happen primarily because other defenders are not containing or staying home. Would like more engagement rather than pure block evasion because it can get him out of position. Honestly, a solid bailout in Tampa too. In a straight line, he's a very good athlete. He just has an issue maintaining momentum and accelerating out of cuts. Great patience in filling run lanes. Primary read when the quarterback does his options, which is going to be super key. Jumped a gap, but looks like his foot got caught and he ended up falling. He ended up jumping. He does a good job jumping into the gaps that do open up. Great angles keeping Milroe at bay, which is fucking nuts. It was crazy. He did probably the best job out of most players I've seen versus Jalen Milroe. Not a pass rushing threat. Checks what's going on route-wise when he's in zone, so he ends up like processing what the actual play development is, which I love to see. Not fooled by a double reverse. It ended up being a pass though. Has the build to be more physical if he wanted to be, which at that time I think he was playing at 240. He dropped to 233 probably to test out well, but I do think he'll end up playing at that 240 frame. Great feel of a post route developing behind him. Excellent job guarding the sticks on a 3rd and long. Completely ineffective as a pass rusher. Got beat by an angle route and ended up being open enough for a big gain, ended up not being targeted. Elite performance -2 or 3 reps. So Denny Stutzman, I do think, is the most underrated linebacker in the class. Again, this is also talking about the players who are extremely underrated. Jalen Smith, you guys have seen him super high on my board for a long time and have wondered why. No video explaining it so far. Today's your day. Let's talk about his game versus Notre Dame. Great angles in pursuit and off coverage and sure tackling. Staying alive on the backside of the play. Great open field tackler. Great job with his shoulder staying square to his target. Seems to be more explosive than top speed fast, which is pretty indicative. Like overall, that's perfect to describe his game. Got slightly beat on a zig route due to his pad level being a little bit too high on the cut, but he ended up making the open field tackle again. He floats around so smoothly, not too shabby even at free safety. Apparently he clocked in over 21 miles per hour at the Senior Bowl, so he is fast, which, I mean, again, like, we're going to be honest. Let's stick to the fact that his top speed's a little bit capped. Needs to lower his pad level when making cuts. It seems like he learned in the Senior Bowl because he did it well with change of direction. But in tape, he can end up getting stuck at the cut point. Just handled the tight end like nothing. Still let up the catch, but he did not allow the tight end to bitch him, and it was 3rd down and held the tight end from getting a first while being solo versus him. He can be slightly delayed in standard man coverage, not in off or press coverage. When coming to reacting to cuts, allowing for a quick reception on 1st and 4th down for a 1st on 4th down. So on a 4th down conversion, when he's in standard press or standard man coverage, so you're not doing press, you're not in off, you're not in catch, you're just, standing a couple yards away from him and you're just guarding him, right? I do think that's his worst, but I do think when you do have him in press, when you do have him off, like this guy is phenomenal and he's really good at reacting in those situations. I will say in the slot, I'd have more issues with him in off coverage. I saw Tez Johnson get the best of him a couple of times in Mobile, but back to it. So he has low-key been thriving at free safety. He's willing to go into the box, does an excellent job of swiping receivers' hands when trying to do a release. Slipped off an open field tackle, ended up making an open field tackle to save a touchdown. Phenomenal job. So I just think this guy is more studded than I don't understand why people don't like him. When they're talking about him in quarters, they have issues with his overall play. I think this guy is designed pretty much to play like anything outside of something that requires an extreme top speed. And, I don't really get the pushback. This is going to be my guy this year. I really do think it's great. Like his comp is Jair Alexander. I think that's spot on. So let's talk about Mac McWilliams, who's pretty much very close to the exact opposite of Jalen Smith. And Mac McWilliams is fun. Remember, athleticism grade is a combination of both burst and top speed. So for me, Jalen Smith even though I believe he tested out the same, if not worse, than Mac McWilliams of the 40. His explosiveness on tape is just ridiculous. But let's talk about McWilliams versus University of Arizona. This is another player I have extremely high that is not in my most recent corner video. He's gritty, commanding the zone better than anticipated. Does a good job going back and forth when it comes to change of direction. Good job being patient in open field as well. He's a shitty blitzer. Has a near perfect combination of quick feet, but also a float and patience. So he doesn't have very choppy feet. He just kind of like, he floats. He floats. That's what it is. It's extreme fluidity. And the patience there is more of an IQ thing. In other words, instincts. He can cover quarters or cover 3 deep very, very well. Would like a bit better power out of his break overall, but overall, I am very impressed. Mac McWilliams is awesome. I mean, he wowed me. Like, I didn't expect to like him, but in Mobile, he ended up making me like him. Same thing with Jalen Smith. I had to end up scouting him, and I think this guy's going to be great. Sebastian Castro is next, and we're ending off with the DBs here with Sebastian Castro and one more player. Castro, let's talk about his game versus Washington, which at the time of me studying it was by far his worst game. Already flashing his zone IQ, needs to wrap up overall. He did a good job identifying a screen and ended up picking it up. Needs to make these little hop steps quicker because the wide receiver timed it right. So he ends up having these hop steps, but if he's like going up and then the receiver is cutting, he has to get down, and you guys understand. It's just timing. It allows receivers to get the step on him. Deep safety rep took a wrong angle and a deep crosser, still ended up making a play. He seems more athletic than he was the year before. He actually tested out much better than what his tape suggested, but that's a conversation probably for another day. But he's used as almost an edge blitzer quite a bit, like from wide 9. Got faked badly by a double move, flashing much more athleticism than he did the year before. For some reason, he got pissed off and ended up taking his game to a whole new level as the game progressed. Backups ended up coming in. Overall, surprised by how well he played and how he has improved as an athlete. I'm confident that he could have an almost Drew Phillips offseason if he continues to refine his awareness and man coverage and increase his athleticism. Unfortunately, I don't think he did that, but this is still a top-end player that deserves a lot of love. He's a top 100 player for me, and I don't think there's very much outside of his play athleticism that gets me concerned. And then ending this off, we got Jordan Oladokin. Love this kid. And we're going to talk about his game overall. So let's talk about his game versus Penn State. A bit late on a lot of run identifications. So he was a boundary corner, by the way, while talking about this. I do just think he's going to be a slot. Solid off man, a little slow changing north to south, but not bad. Smooth east to west change of direction. Great in off man so far. High in nickel potential if he can not stay on the boundary. I can tell why they have him in off coverage. His top speed is definitely not top tier. Willing to hit even tight ends with full force. He has been an asset in the run defense and run after the catch defense. Unreal tackling, could easily be a high-end nickel. Excellent pass breakup showing his lack of top speed, but his determination. So overall, I mean, Jordan Oladokin, one of the guys who I've never heard anyone talk about. I really do hope that begins to change, but with a couple weeks left of the draft, I don't really know if that's the case. But if any of your teams end up drafting these guys, be happy. They have some really good players out here. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the far side.